Okay, hello everyone. This is Sharonda, and this is my podcast as well as my Spreaker Studio, uh, Spiritual Sense. Today is Wednesday, which is October the 5th, in this podcast as well as YouTube channel. I go over topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, supernatural, and I also incorporate a daily tarot card reading into this podcast as well as YouTube channel as well. So I'd like to start off by saying that this podcast is and YouTube channel is for entertainment purposes. It's an open social discussion in regards to topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. And so I am going to dive into the topic for today. And I pulled up some information. I have not read the information, but I'm going to go over. I entitled it "Decide to to title." I'm sorry, this as this episode as "Spiritual Sight on Borrowed Time," a snapshot in time. So that's basically what I'm going to entitle that for today. Now, it's some information here. I don't think that will be relevant to what I am trying to get at. So we're going to proceed with some more information here in regards to spiritual sight. I'm not going to pull off no information because um it's not really relevant to what I'm talking about, but this is what I'm entitling this podcast. So I'm not going to read off any information because I don't think a lot of that is applicable to what I'm getting at. And it may be, but for time purposes, I'm just going to go off of a whim. So, spiritual sight, a snapshot in time on borrowed time. Um, I think if you go back and listen to my podcast, Lost Souls, um, which are energies that are still lingering around, residual energies that may be still lingering around. Oftentimes, when we are receptive to those energies, we would take on those impressions as such. Many of times when you're dealing with situations, and particularly when you're in a relationship that is emotional, mentally, physically abusing to yourself, many of times you may be dealing with someone who feels bad about himself or herself. Many times these individuals are what I consider to be picking up energies from of lost souls. Every time I turn around, it's something, it's this and that. And and what do I mean about lost souls? Lost souls is uh spirits that has transitioned over but are still lingering around, kind of like left out in the cold, so to speak. Like spirits that have been left, no one pays them any attention. They just left out and about. And I think many times you may have people that have that similar same, uh, you know, behavior as well, where no one pays me any attention. I'm left out in the cold. I'm hungry. I can't eat. Some things were unfavorable for me, and here I'm out just straggling along, walking aimlessly to get whatever needs I need to have met. And oftentimes you will find they don't necessarily look like quote the homeless or the disenfranchised. Many times you may have individuals that are very charismatic and very cunning and come to you as a bright and shining armor. And God would tag them in such a way to where you will see that this something is kind of up with this person. What is going on with this person? Like this person don't move in a manner like a normal individual would move. Something is going on with this person? What is that? And so over my conquest, over the last 40 plus years of my life, I began to take note of things such as this. I want to say roughly in my 20s. And I began to see it in others. And I wondered to myself, what exactly is that? Even though I think many people automatically know, but I think you become very curious and you want to get a little bit more insight as to what exactly that is. Like the things that I read in terms of the biblical text and what I see, what exactly is that? What is the explanation to that? So that's why I entitled this episode Spiritual Sight, a snapshot in time on borrowed time. I think, in essence, when you begin to see certain things or certain matters as such, you begin to notice that you see a person at a certain phase in their life. So, say for instance, how the saying goes, look with the wind blown in, or look with the weather blown in, or whatever the case may be. And when you begin to be in situations or relationships with people as such, oftentimes they have fallen from grace. If you're the type of person that is receptive to certain energies, many times people have fallen away from grace, like a state of alienation, where everybody has pulled away from them and favor has fallen away from them. And you'll begin to see um, God will present to you what caused this person to lose favor. So it's kind of like a reenactment when the person presents to you is in such a matter as to a snapshot in time. This is what caused this person to fall away from favor. This is what caused this person to be in the situation that he or she are in now, a point in time. So I begin to wonder, as they say, somebody being in a mode or a phase, is this how this person is all the time? Or is this just a snapshot in time? Like to cause this person to humble himself or herself, but apart from that, they're restored when they're away from me. And as I sit here and give my analysis on the song, Papa Was a Rolling Stone comes to mind. When it mentions Papa was a Rolling Stone, whatever he laid in had was his home. And when he died, all he left us was alone, pretty much similar to that. But in the instance, when you begin to have a lot of these different spirits or people or men or counterparts or whatever, lover or whatever, gravitate to you, and you begin to wonder, is this just a phase? Is this just how this person is when it comes around me? Like, does this person have a life and a wife apart from a whole life? And then when it comes around me, it will get into a mode or a matter. And so this is what I said that many women as well as men who doesn't have spiritual sight. And this is apart from actual sight, like physical sight to see. But I'm saying the ability to see what that is. God will put them in such a matter where they're in character and out of character. Who is God? I mean, it could very well be, it's God giving you discernment. He's giving you the ability to see it. Don't overthink it. It is what it is, but I'm here to give you more clarity on that as such. Like this is what caused me to fall from grace. It is what it is. It's going to present itself. And so, as I mentioned when I did my podcast on uh, moon cycles. And let me go back to that podcast because I don't remember exactly how I entitled it. Moon cycles and spirituality, and how certain energies would be apparent at certain times of the night, of the day. I mean, words just cannot explain it. Like you would just know what you know, what you know. And I think in essence, um, that is essentially what that is. Like at different times of the day, different times of the night or whatever, you have certain energies that get up and proceed on whatever duties and things they may present to do. It works the same way when you have energies that gravitate to you, particularly around certain periods of time or certain moments in time, because you will begin to know what this is. Particularly when you have stayed in a location for so long, you'll begin to know what that is. And I think when you are someone that is always uprooted and never at no consistent place, you will always be confused. I mean, you won't really grasp that understanding. But if you ask God for true understanding, He's going to give that to you. You'll be able to know, as the saying goes, a creature of habit. You'll begin to know, when something is out of place or out of sync, as such. And so, in saying that, on borrowed time, I think this works. Oddly enough, knock on wood, I think this happens in situations where you may have somebody who is close to transition from this existence to the next. Where, okay, repent of your sins, change essentially, or this is what will happen. And I think in essence, God will show you what that is when there needs to be a change. Now, ultimately, as I mentioned, death has many, as when we hear about death, we think about physically departing. But death can be a death of a situation, death of a career, or death. And look at it, excuse me, look at it as a new beginning, a new venture, a new beginning for the better. So doesn't necessarily mean that, in many instances that you are to leave physically. I mean, in some situation, I think that's you seeing a snapshot in time prior to the demise of this person as well. But I think before a person transition on over, there is a message that is to be conveyed. And the person will let you know as a result of this is why this happened to me. So they'll begin to do things that you know that is out of character of them. When you truly know that person, this is what sent me to hell. And so if you just sit back and take a look of it, this is God making apparent to you as to this is why I transition over. This is what happened to me before my demise to cause me to be in the situation that I'm in. You know how you mentioned, you hear this saying of the phrase about, people only around for a certain season. So that's basically what that is. You haven't come, you have a goal. So essentially, that's basically what that analogy is talking about. Like we are essentially here for a season, and when it's getting time to make that transition, That could be in terms of transformation or change. It also can be in terms of a spiritual transition as well. And it will become apparent to you when that is the case. When you're not wanted around, and when they always want you to, not necessarily that you're not wanted around. Don't look at it like that, apart from death. I mean, it could very well that you're in high demand. So don't accept that. Even if that may be the case, just make some revisions in your life and move those negative energies and thoughts away. Because if you begin to believe it, then it will become your reality. I also feel as though you may have situations where you're being taunted by these individuals as well to make you change or to make you do something that is frivolous. And oftentimes I find myself in situations such as that. I think this is why, knock on wood, not to be biased or whatever, but I think this is why you have a lot of women who may not be supportive of one another, and perhaps men as well, because you feel as though if I accept this as my reality, then this is what it's going to be for me. So unless it's just you feel like this person is taunting you, who sent this person to me? This person is gravitated to me, is more or less like an OCD beyond measure. And it's a sad situation, it's a sad thing to be in because a lot of people choose to not even acknowledge it. They don't want to give any uh, understanding to it. And I do feel as though being a person who is empathetic, you get to take on a lot of those energies. You take on a lot of those energies. Trust and believe it. You're not the only one. It may appear as though you're the only one who takes on those energies, but you got to learn how to perform rituals and to begin to study when those energies present themselves out. Because if you feel as though it's intimidating, it's fearful, it makes you think in terms of your own inhibitions or your own fears and things of the sort. Ask God to seal you and shield you from those energies. As the saying goes, the Passover. There's certain foods and certain rituals you carry out to have those spirits to pass over you. Kind of like when you go to trick or treat, when the children go out to trick or treat. I did a podcast episode in regards to Halloween and what the comings about of Halloween. It is reference to All Saints Day. All Saints Day is more spiritual than you would know. And even in trick or treating Halloween in this modern day American way of doing it, you turn your light on if you want the trick or treaters to come. You turn your light and keep your light off if you don't want them to come to your door. It works the same way when you're dealing with a lot of energies. As a level of respect, you turn your light off to keep those spirits away. Same instances. Okay. So I'm going to conclude this episode of Spiritual Sense as well as podcast speaking on spiritual sight to see a snapshot in time for those who are on borrowed time. Okay. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions or a topic for a future show, you're more than welcome to comment in the comment section. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.